Welcome to Wednesday Wisdom.
Good morning. This is Jos Visser, the author of Wednesday Wisdom, and this week's article is called Show, Don't Tell, or through its alternative title, The Importance of the First Follower. But before we get there, our sister publication, Thursday Thoughts, published an article called Keeping It Real about the European Cloud. This article discusses Europe's dream for a sovereign cloud, which is much harder to realize than many people seem to think. Thursday Thoughts irregularly publishes articles that are longer and more opinionated. I would appreciate it if you would check it out and maybe subscribe. I'll contain the link in the show notes. With that out of the way, here's this week's Wednesday Wisdom article, Show, Don't Tell. Many years ago, I was hanging out with some friends, one of whom was a basketball coach. We were randomly watching a soccer game where Egypt was playing some other African nation. After the game, the Egyptian team manager was interviewed, and during that interview he said that the reason for their recent success was that he had changed the culture of the team. "This is the best coach on the planet," my basketball coach friend said, because he managed to change the culture of his team. It is definitely true that culture eats strategy and tactics for breakfast. As I wrote before, I have a very simple definition of culture. It is just the sum total of what you do. If your entire team keeps their cameras off during team meetings, then that is your culture. If code reviews are just stamped without an actual review, that is your culture. If nobody says anything during the yearly feedback session on the employee happiness surveys, that is your culture. It might be a suboptimal culture, it might be in direct opposition of what you say your culture is, but still, what you do is your culture. I have worked in companies that were very concerned about their culture changing. A common reaction to that is to talk about it a lot and maybe strengthen the language that describes what the official culture is. When that happens, there are often surveys, emails, special Slack channels, and listening sessions. One company I was at even instituted a culture club, apparently entirely oblivious to the fact that we've already had one and truly it wasn't very good, so I wondered why they thought it would work this time. They also instituted a culture czar, because obviously what the culture needed was an autocratic ruler who could decide over the life and death of the workers at a whim's notice. All of this was of course useless. Most cultural changes in growing companies are due to corporate gravity, and I don't think there's anything you're going to do about that. Changing the culture in smaller groups might be more achievable, and indeed, I've managed on a number of occasions to do just that, which I guess puts me on par with the aforementioned Egyptian team manager. Here is the key insight on how to achieve cultural change in the team. Show, don't tell. And here's a somewhat obvious anti-pattern. Tell, but don't show. A few years ago, anyone who was anyone in Dutch politics was talking incessantly about the need for a new political culture. More transparency, more and better listening to grievances of Joe Sixpack and Ordinary Jane, and of course, solutions that work. A lot was said about the new political culture, but not a lot was actually done, and so nothing changed. If anything, the then new cabinet was depressingly old in its political culture, which I completely expected because the incentives hadn't changed and hence nobody could afford to change their behavior. Negative culture is incredibly contagious, and people are always ready to jump over a low bar. If new people join the team and they notice that you get away with no unit tests, no meeting notes, and keeping your camera off during team meetings, so that you can play Diablo Immortal on your iPad, they will do just that. Bad team hygiene and suboptimal work practices spread like wildfire, because it's just much easier to slack than it is to deliver high-quality work, which requires depressing consistency and attention to detail, both of which are very tiresome. To change that, you must first notice it. That's the easy bit. But what next? As I wrote about before, we're always ready to assume that when things don't go as we want them to, that is because of a lack of knowledge. And then what do? We add knowledge to the system. In the case of culture change, we talk about it, we write documents about it, and we give presentations about it. This course of action must be based on the expectation that once we explain what the expected behavior is, people will start doing it. Oh, people will suddenly think, we need to write unit tests. That's such a great idea. I'll immediately start doing it. Or, oh, when asked for a code review, we need to actually review the code and maybe make useful comments, suggestions, and spot potential bugs. How cool is that? Who would have thought? If you have ever been involved in one of these drives to improve unit test coverage, institute more effective code review, or improve on-call handoff, you probably know what will happen next. As we say in Holland, everyone took a leak and nothing had changed by the next week. Thank you ChatGPT for translating the following. Iedereen doet een plas en alles is weer zoals het was. Telling people what to do does not work unless it is immediately followed by a change in incentives. For the kinds of things we want to change in a team's culture, that is typically not going to happen, though sometimes it is possible. During Google's phase of explosive hiring, every engineer was expected to do at least one interview per week. There was always a bit of a struggle until Google's Vice President Urs Hulsle instituted changes in the bonus program and job ladder that would negatively impact anyone who didn't carry their weight vis-à-vis the interview load. Cue lots of enthusiasm to do interviews. The same happened with doing more grunt work. Urs, again, made it an explicit part of the job ladder to do grunt work, and that did wonders for the amount of technical debt that was addressed. Changes in incentives at that level are rare though, and they're especially rare for things that are only impactful at a team level. So if talking about a change doesn't work, and we do not have proper incentives in place, what to do instead? The answer: model the desired behavior. Show, don't tell, means that you need to actively model the behavior that you would like to see. Easy as that. Do you want the team to do better code reviews? Make sure your code reviews are awesome. Want everyone to turn the camera on during video conferences? Start by turning your camera on. Want people to write better on-call handover notes? Write awesome on-call handover notes yourself, and then keep doing it, which might be a long time, but I'm running ahead of myself a bit. There are two problems with bringing change about through show, don't tell. First, it takes a long time, like I said. Second, during a lot of that time, you look like a lone nutcase. With respect to that first point, kinda sucks, but there's nothing to be done about it. Depending on the thing you want to change, it might take months before you get any traction. A good culture czar could crack the whip and send some team members to the gulag, which has a tendency to focus the minds a bit. But for the lone nutcase who is doing a great job, you need to set an expectation for yourself that you'll be alone for a bit while trying to set a good example. Here's not a great Dutch saying that might describe your emotions during that period. Delivering quality in this organization is like peeing in your pants while wearing dark trousers. It gives you a warm feeling, but nobody notices. So how and when will you get traction? When will you stop being the lone nutcase? At this point in the podcast, you need to stop listening and spend 3 minutes of your life watching a video, the link of which is in the show notes. I promise it will be worth it. As the video shows, while you are modeling the expected behavior, you probably look like a lone nutcase. But the moment the first follower joins, you get a movement going. This means that while you are modeling the behavior and showing everyone how it is done, you should actively seek out your first follower. Acknowledge them, it's very important, and continue to do whatever it is you are doing, but now together. There are undoubtedly people in your team who agree with you that the particular change that you want to bring about is necessary, but they might feel too new, too junior, or too whatever to take the lead. Maybe they don't feel Dutch enough, something lots of people suffer from. Remember your high school dances? It's not that people don't want to dance. Most people just hate being the first one on the dance floor. This is where you come in. You can take the lead, thereby lowering the bar for the people who agree with you to engage in that behavior too. Then the first follower joins, and then the second. Now you have momentum. Eventually, even the stragglers will join, and finally the people who do not agree with you are forced to join or risk being left behind. As the video I refer to clearly shows, It is the first follower who turns the leader from a lone nut into something that can grow into a movement. The good thing about this insight is that you can be just as instrumental in bringing about change by being that first or second follower. If you spot some behavior you like and you want to embrace it, just copy it. You don't always have to come up with the bright ideas. As I wrote above, the problem with show don't tell is that it might take a long time to bring about the changes you want. Fortunately, there's nothing that can be done about that. Inertia is one of the most important properties of matter, and people are incredibly good at it. If you want to move a group of people into a certain direction, you need to apply consistent force. But that also means that if you do manage to bring the change about, it will often stick, because once people do a certain thing, they often continue doing that thing, especially if they know in their heart of hearts that it's the right thing to do. Bringing about change requires a leader to start modeling the desired behavior and then a first follower to turn it into a movement. You can be either. Don't despair when your good behavior is not immediately copied. Find and nurture your first follower. And if you see behavior worth copying, be that first follower and start a movement. And remember this, the first follower is also a leader.